Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. My name is Kyle, or VTech, whichever you call me, and welcome to the Chicago Blackhawks versus the St. Louis Blues, the April 3rd game podcast here. Going into today, Chicago, as we all know, of yesterday was out of the playoffs, and I do apologize if you catch my podcast, um, wondering why I did not post one um, either right at technically the third, the second, technically would be the second, family issues, and then I had recording issues. I was going to try and get it out early around 4 o'clock. That's when I want to try to post these around 4 o'clock, um, 3 or 4 o'clock around that time the next day after a game. Um, but I went in and I actually clicked the fourth for some reason instead of the third. But that's on my part. But anyways, we're back with the Chicago and St. Louis Blues game here. Chicago out of the playoffs as far as April 2nd. St. Louis Blues are now they are 1 point back from the first, but at the time of the game, 2 points back from first place in the Central Division. Chicago 34, 33, 12 going into today's game. St. Louis 43, 28, and 8. The goalie matchups were Cam Ward. He is 14, 11, and 4, 3.72 save percentage, and a .893 goals against. Jake Allen is 14, 17, 7 for a 2.83 goals against and a .905 save percentage. It's kind of nice to see, them being out of the playoffs and not having to rely on Crawford. I'll get into a little bit at the end after I go through all the stats of what I think should be done with Ward or what the case may be in that scenario. But they did call up Dennis Gilbert from the minors. He is a defenseman. I know he had a couple good opportunities in the game. I didn't catch all of the first period due to I coach softball and we had a softball game. I did listen to radio. I did hear Tave score his goal, all that other stuff. I did hear all that. I was listening to the game. Just didn't physically get to see it. But going into the first period, Gilbert gets a holding the stick on Perrin. Penalty killers kill it off at 16:26 into the first. Tave Jula gets his 9th assist of the year. Taves passes his career high goals in a season, and Kane ties his season career high season point with that assist. It really seemed like it was just mostly the Hawks. It seemed like the St. Louis just kind of came out slow. I think that the pressure is completely off on the Hawks. No matter if they win or lose, it doesn't matter. And they just kind of go out and they're playing relaxed. And that's just something I hope to see going into next year, is that they start to play the game a little just relaxed and not so stressed out, or now and then getting down to the playoff time having to be stressed. Everything has to be perfect, precise, and I think that's what kind of helped them to the shootout win tonight. But the first period stats here: Chicago had 12 shots on goal. They were 43.8 in the faceoff dot. No power plays, 2 penalty minutes, 7 hits, 4 block shots, 5 giveaways, 2 takeaways. St. Louis has 7 shots on goal. They were 56.2 in the faceoff dot. 0 for 1 on the power play, 0 penalty minutes, 5 hits, 8 block shots, 1 takeaway, 2 giveaways. And you can see that the Hawks, they're a little bit, the giveaways are kind of major there. I mean, 5 giveaways in a period is quite a much, and only having 2 takeaways. When you even it out, St. Louis has a better advantage in the turnover ratio there. Then in the second period, 26 seconds in. Tarasenko gets his 32nd of the year, assisted by Shin, his 36th, and Parenko, his 17th assist of the year. It was glove side high on Ward, really quick in, coming off a good period. Nothing much you could do on that portion of it. But then at 2 minutes and 56 seconds in, Shen gets a tripping call on Keith. Power play failed on that one. And then at 13:26, goal by Anisimov, his 15th of the year, assisted by Kuhn, his 24th, and Saad, his 23rd of the year. It was a tip in, basically, a good position, good spot. Anisimov puts in the back of the net. Then towards the end of the period, I think it was, I'm not quite sure, I didn't write down, don't know why, but Bozic gets a tripping on Keith, and the power play fails. It is what it is. You know, you go into one. Second period stats, Chicago had 10 shots on goal, 43.8 on the faceoff dot, over 2 on the power play. 2 penalty minutes, 15 hits, 9 block shots, 6 giveaways, 4 takeaways. St. Louis had 13 shots on goal, 56.2 in the faceoff dot, 0 for 1 on the power play. 4 penalty minutes, 10 hits, 14 block shots, 2 giveaways, and 7 takeaways. So, you know, the giveaways, the takeaway ratio, you know, it's kind of even itself out, but still, I think too many giveaways for the Hawks. Then at 11, and so going into the second period at 11:37, Kane finally scores a goal after a while of not really scoring a goal. Scores his 42nd. That bumps him past DeBrincat as the top goal scorer for the Chicago Blackhawks. He gets his 42nd of the year. Strom gets his 36th assist of the year, and Keith gets his 33rd. And Kane just kind of, you know, he gets the puck and he does his magic, and it goes over the top. It was a hard shot. I would say it was a hard shot, and you know, it kind of bounced right in and out, and they weren't sure, but there was a referee that said it was a good goal, so we had a good goal there. But I knew I was going to jack this up, but at 1:34 into the second period, Cahoon had a hooking on Schwartz. Doesn't matter. Penalty killers killed it off. Yet again, penalty killers looking good, but that would just a little bit after Kane's goal at 11:59, a penalty. Strom had a hooking on O'Reilly, and just a little bit after that, at 12:23, Perrin gets his 22nd of the year on a power play goal. Parasinko gets his 20. Not Parasinko. Perangelo gets his 24th of the year, and Tarasenko gets his 32nd of the year in assist. Then winding down, Pozanic gets his 13th of the year, and Maroon gets his 11th or 18th of the year, and Parenko gets his 18th assist of the year. Is that to tie it up? Am I missing? I'm missing something, and I'm gonna cut that. Taves scored. Naismith scored. King scored. Okay. And then with the goalie pulled at 19:21, Pozanic scores his 13th. Maroon gets his 18th assist of the year. Parenko gets his 18th assist of the year as well. You could have said, you know, there could have been goalie interference on that. They didn't say it was goalie interference. You could also say Cam Ward should have kept his pads down. But, you know, in all 3 goals he gave up tonight, I'm not going to blame him, not saying that he's a terrible goaltender. I'll explain a little bit more into what my reasoning is there. But that ends up tying the game, and we're going to overtime. The third period stats here: Chicago had 11 shots on goal, 50% in the face-off dot, 0 for 2 on the power play, 6 penalty minutes, 19 hits, 13 block shots, 10 giveaways, 7 takeaways. St. Louis had 22 shots on goal. They were 50% in the face-off dot as well. 1 for 3 on the power play, 4 penalty minutes, 11 hits, 19 block shots, 2 giveaways, and 10 takeaways. So it really comes down to, another stupid penalty, and you can't be giving up 3-4 penalties a night. And that's just been an issue with the Hawks, especially in key situations. Like I said in the last podcast, is the clutch factor. There's no clutch factor for the Hawks, and that's been the issue for them. So going to overtime, no one scored anything. There's no penalties. Both teams had 1 shots on goal. Chicago Hill was 47.4 in the face-off dot. Power play was 0 for 2. Penalty minutes 6. That's all the same. 20 hits, 15 block shots, 12 giveaways, 7 takeaways. St. Louis with 52.6 in the face-off dot, 1 for 3, 4 penalty minutes, 11 hits, 20 block shots, 3 giveaways, and 10 takeaways. Like I said, the only thing that really stays the same when I go over these stats is the shots on goal, what they were per period. The face-off, the power plays, and all that, they are all combined with the next period, with all the recent periods out through the game. So we go into shootout, and Taves does a little backhand, forehand, shoots it top, I believe was it blocker side, top shelf there. He scores. Bozanic does a wrist shot, saved by Ward. Kane does his, come out fast, slow down. He hits it off the crossbar. O'Reilly does a wrist shot, saved by Ward. DeBrincat does a forehand, backhand, and he had Allen beat, but he just missed wide with the backhand, and Tarasenko trying to do some dekes and do some, beautiful stick handling around Ward, and Ward just goes ahead and says, screw you, when poke checks it. So that was the end of the game. End of game stats: Chicago 38. Face-off percentage for Chicago was 48.3. Power play was 0 for 2. Penalty minutes 6. 20 hits, 16 block shots, 12 giveaways, and 7 takeaways. St. Louis 40 shots on goal, 51.7 the face-off dot, 1 for 3 on the power play, 4 penalty minutes, 11 hits, 20 block shots, 3 giveaways, and 11 takeaways. Goalie stats: Cam Ward was 37 of 40 with a 9.25 save percentage. Well, it's not 9, my bad. A .925 save percentage. 3 goals against. Jake Allen had 35 out of 38 for a .921 save percentage and 3 goals against. Chicago individual stat leaders. These go over time on ice, shots on goal, hits, block shots, and face-off percentage. If you want to see me add more into that, let me know. I know it's coming down late into the season, but that's just for future reference. Keith at 27.40 had the most time on ice. Keith and Kane both had the most shots on goal at 6. Gilbert, with his first NHL game, has 6 hits, so he could be one of those heavy hitters that we're looking for in the defense at least. Keith had 5 block shots. Kruger at the faceoff dot at 66.7. St. Louis individual stats: Perangelo was 25 of time on ice with 25 minutes and 43 seconds. Shen and Bozic had 6 shots on goal. Perrin had 4 hits. Gunnarsson and Parenko had 5 block shots, and faceoff percentage was O'Reilly at 60.9. So my thoughts on the game here, with Ward finally playing after not playing for a month, looks very well after that first period. He kind of gives up that weak goal in the second. I really wouldn't say it's a weak goal. It was a kind of a place shot. I mean, that's the shots that Crawford's been getting beat by. But I just think that, I think that I know I understand why Jeremy Collinson played Corey Crawford for those 14 straight games. But I think after having a game losing in LA in overtime, you start to see a trend of a goalie maybe getting tired a little bit. With the San Jose game, him giving up 4 goals, um, going to overtime, giving up 3 goals or 4 goals, whatever the overtime was. Stat kind of loses me there. But I think with doing that, being on that road trip, I think that Jeremy Colliton should have given Corey Crawford maybe a break during LA. Just so he was playing his 12th game straight. And I'm not saying Cam Ward's a terrible goaltender. I think he's not as good as Crawford is. I think Crawford's better than him, but he's been stepping into that individual role of a backup goalie very, very well. And I understand that some people probably like him more than Crawford, and I get that everyone has their opinions, but your opinions are wrong in my podcast. I'm just kidding with you. Everyone's opinions matter, right? But I think then, with that, and then having another game going to overtime against Winnipeg, giving up another 4-goal game, I just think that he was tired, and I think you have to put a little trust in your backup goaltender. I understand you're coming down to playoff crunch time, but you have to understand that people get tired, and I think that Corey Crawford as well was tired, especially coming off an injury and then playing just right back at it. I understand he's had 2 months off. He should be well rested, but it takes a toll on you, especially playing 60 minutes every night that you're playing, and it's not like you're facing a ton of shots all the time. The defense is playing a little better, but especially going to overtime, playing those close games where you have to exert all your energy and you're making crazy saves, you're doing all this other stuff, it's going to wear you down. So I think after the San Jose game, I think that, Jeremy Colliton should have given Corey Crawford a break against LA. That's a game you should win, so why not put your backup goalie in who's been well rested, to give Crawford that little bit of relaxation a little bit, so going into Winnipeg, and maybe if he was full force ready to go in Winnipeg, then when they faced Winnipeg, he had been felt, he would have had those couple days of rest, more fully locked in. I just think that, everyone gets tired, and, it's not like in basketball where, you just go ahead and sub. If someone's tired, you just sub in someone off the bench. You don't see people just subbing a goalie because he's playing all, you could say, well, a goalie plays all 60 minutes. Yeah. But, he sits, depending on the team, he could just sit on the ice and not, have to worry about it. But he's still exerting energy. He's still, Crawford's one of those guys that always goes around the net, trying to help out the defense, stuff like that. And that can lead into an issue for him. And, he's an active goaltender, and he's always going to, always being active. So I think it would have been nice to give him a little bit of a break there. I'm not just saying this because Cam Ward won today. I'm not saying that at all. It just kind of dawned on me saying, well, okay, now that they're out of the playoffs, now you're going to give Crawford a break. And I understand that. Cam Ward comes out with a great win. But, he still gives up 3 goals. He still gave up 3 goals. Even though he faced 40 shots, he still gave up 3 goals. And, that when we get done with the season stats, I'll go over all that. And by the end of that time, I will make a decision on games played, wins, losses. Cam Ward he found a way to get the win. But, when you look back at the games that Crawford had 1 or 2 goals against, and they still don't win because they either got shut out or they only scored 1 or 2 goals, who really is there to fault? And that will be a discussion after the season's over in one of my podcasts that I'll do, a weekly podcast on like that. I said, just looking over the game, I just think that the Hawks played relaxed. Just kind of going out there and maybe trying new things, or just kind of being out there and just to play, because whatever happens. You're not gonna, your wins, your losses don't count at this point. I mean, the only thing that it counts for is maybe in the draft lottery. um but as we all know, that Ottawa will basically get that, but then that pick's gonna go to Colorado, because they picked up Matt Duchene, and that was a trade for Duchene, and which kind of didn't really work out for Ottawa in that portion of it. But you just looking towards the future, when I was listening on the radio, when I'm on drive home back from the high school, you know, they were talking. Well, Cam Warden may not play next year. He's only on a 1-year contract. But do you keep him around for another year? You're looking at the future. Do you want Colin Delia to play most of the time down in Rockford, or do you want to bring him up as a backup goalie and only get so much time? And Ward fits the backup role very well, and he's one of those. He's older, and he's gonna fit in that backup role very well. And I'm not saying that Crawford, he's either gonna retire before he becomes a backup goalie, or he's gonna, maybe they're gonna keep him as a backup goalie for Colin Delia. Because he's 34 next year. He's gonna be 35, and Cam Moore's 35, gonna be turning 36. So players are getting older. Stuff like that. Kane and Taves, they have maybe 5 years left, 6 years at the most. They have Keith and Seabrook. They're getting older, but you gotta trust in the system that they're gonna start bringing players up, and I think I think the timing is right, because you get some teams that are very young. So it's going to take them a while until they're going to be, not saying they're not going to be bad, but it takes a while for them to be noticed. But then by the time they get older or something, they kind of get all spread out, and just different things like that. Or some teams are just old, and the next year after that, they have to bring new people. And I just think that this is a good time. Not saying to get rid of the core play. I'm not saying get rid of Seabrook or Keith. That'll be a discussion for later, which one of those should go. They're gonna find a way to keep Kane and Taves. I think they'll retire Blackhawks. I don't think I'll see anyone else wear an 88 and a 19 jersey. Maybe either a 2 or a 7. You don't know. I'm just saying that those are going to be something to look at. But with Strome and DeBrincat being that next level, that next step up, then those next core people, you have that. Your next top 2 defensemen, maybe a Connor Murphy and a Gustafson. Gilbert in his one game that he's only played one game, but he has those 6 hits, so he could be that defenseman who can do, who could hit, be that portion of it. I think that Cahoon, Camp, could be, and maybe a Sakura can be that third, fourth line area. Kajula can be, maybe a first, second power forward kind of dealio there. I can see Saad really moving up in, he could end up being in the top line. It's just we have a lot of scenarios that we can work with, but just thinking right off the top of the head, there's a couple of players that you look at and say, okay, we think that we can do this, but yet again, it's going to rely on what the front office is going to do. Is the front office going to try and work the salary cap to keep everyone around, and maybe get rid of like a Marcus Kruger, a Kunitz, he can go. That's gonna free up some room to, maybe potentially bringing in a younger guy or get another free agent who is not, kind of not, he can be he can be a little, he can be past his prime a little bit, but still be productive in a way. um, or maybe I, I don't like getting rid of young people, especially when it's their rookie year or 1 year, 2 years into the league. But I think Dahlstrom and Forsling need to be a little better. I don't know. Gilbert, he may seem like he may do something. Harkey, Henry Harkey, you know who I'm talking about. Henry, I'm talking about that one guy he's only 19. I have to hear his name multiple times for me to pronounce it correctly. Um, I think he will be, maybe he could play up there on a top defensive line with Gustafson. I think Gustafson's performance on defense has shown it's been a bigger improvement than it was at the beginning of the year. It's just gonna be one of those things that are gonna be very interesting to see what they're going to do. I just hope they kind of keep the younger players together and kind of push some of those older players out, but not the key players, not the Seabrooks and Keys. But we can have a discussion about that and your thoughts on those people. I mean, I know I'm going to be holding on to keeping those people around because they were the core people who won Stanley Cups, and you can say, well, Kruger was part of that Stanley Cup run and stuff like that, but they need a better third and fourth line. When we look back at it, when I look at the people that scores, it's the top two lines, but the third and fourth line weren't scoring, and we were getting scored on against by the third and fourth line. So I think that those need to be better, statistics. When you really when I look at it, some games that were close, the people that scored don't have a lot of goals or a lot of assists out of the year because they were young, they were the third or fourth lines. So you get those people or those defensemen who don't score and they end up scoring. It's one of those things that you're really gonna have to evaluate, and the nice part is with them being young, with also bringing Jeremy Colliton's system in halfway through the season, and you see the improvement there. Now they have all summer to work with that, all summer to work with the older players, the younger players, to really get that system and go with it. So that's the I'm just hoping to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I say, okay, we go into another overtime game. There's no clutch factor. We couldn't just take the 2 points straight up and just be okay with it. We have to go into overtime and then try to win in overtime, and both teams only had one shot on goal. So there was really nothing that the goaltenders were to prove in overtime. You couldn't say, well, Crawford gave up 2 goals in overtime and Cam Ward didn't. Well, Cam Ward only faced 1 shot. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't multiple shots towards him, but they were blocked out of the way. They didn't get to him. They didn't count. They were off the post or whatever the case may be. Corey Crawford in the Winnipeg game faced 7 shots and he stopped 6 of them. But then you look at Hellbuck and he only faced 2 or 3. So you have to look at that, and then even in the LA game, the shots were 3-2, but the goal that went in was off a power play, and you can see how the penalty kill's been doing. I mean, in Winnipeg they shut all 4 power plays down, but when they get to that 3, if they get more than 3, power plays, they're gonna end up giving up 1 in that scenario. It's just always, number 3, like, okay, the power, they're going to score. There's no doubt about it. They're just going to score. That's just how it's been. That's why they're last in the league, because they couldn't, 1, stay out of the penalty box, and then 2, if they give up, 1 power play goal and the penalties were, 5 or 6 a game, when they give up a goal on the power play and they had anywhere from 4 to 6 penalties, in that game, completely understandable. But 3, you know, that's 33%, of the power plays that you have that go in the back of the net. So, they're last in the league with that. Their average is 33 to 34%. So I'm right on the line with that, saying they give up more than 3 power plays in a game, or at 3 that are going to give up 1 goal. So I'm along the lines of that. So, that's something that needs to be improved. The defensive aspect needs to be improved, and then the defense working with the offense to end up being better. But that's just my thoughts. I'm not going to ramble on too long with that one. Hawks now have 82 points. I'm just kind of keeping track of that. Their last 2 games, their last home game is at home against Dallas. The last game this year at the United Center. That game is at 7:30 on Friday, and then they travel to Nashville the next day on a back-to-back Saturday at 7 o'clock. So those are going to be interesting games, as long, along the lines of, okay, Dallas is the number 1 seed in the wild card spot, and Nashville is up there near the top of the league, or top of the Central Division. So it's just going to be interesting to see how all that works out. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, share with your friends if they're all Blackhawks fans or just interested in hockey as itself. Like I say, I'm just doing this as more as a practice, because I will be going to school for broadcasting. I just kind of want to get my foot in the door with a little bit, mostly taking criticisms, as I should say, to what I need to do better, or whatever the case may be in that scenario. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, and catch you in the next podcast the day after. So that would be Saturday after the Dallas Stars game, and then there will be one Sunday after the Nashville game, and then I will get into the weekly stat, the yearly stat, and naming all the players and what they did who played a minimum, I'm going to say a minimum of 10 games for the Blackhawks, or whatever the case may be. So thank you for watching. Like I said, enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, and hopefully catch you in the next podcast.